Hey bro, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Good work, man, riding through that blind.
I was trying to do different lines, but
There's lots of different lines there, right?
your line were the best, but yeah.
I've got a little bit of experience there. Luckily, I've stopped and actually sessioned that line, lots of different places. I think this would be a really good one for us to actually talk about line selection. Let's go up and do that. Awesome guys, welcome back to another tutorial. We're here today for a super fun one. We're going to talk about some principles, some techniques to use for line selection when it comes to going down technical trails like this one we're on here. Maybe we can have a pan out and just check out this trail. So you can see loads of different line choices coming into this one. You probably see on the GoPro, the follow cam there, that we both took slightly different lines. And as always with line choices, no rights and wrongs. There's pros and cons to different line choices, the different riders in different situations and even different conditions. Now this video was inspired by a question in our free Mental About Mountain Biking Telegram community. A guy called Bronson, who's a motocross coach down in Australia, getting into mountain biking. He's asked us for a tutorial on line selection in rough sections like rock gardens, spotting your lines, but also where to weight, where to unweight, and the timing of that. He mentioned that he's already starting to realize there's a big difference between riding a section and smashing through it or racing it. So great stuff, Bronson. Thanks for the question. Bronson's also joining us down in Tasmania in a couple of weeks. So we're going to go into this in way more depth when we can actually see how he's riding. But for all of you guys, I'm going to give you just some techniques and some principles that will hopefully apply to a broad variety of technical trails wherever you're riding around the world. So taking a look at this section, we can oftentimes narrow the different lines down to direct lines, which are usually more rough, more smashy, but more of a straight line. Oftentimes the pros of a direct line, we've actually got a great one down the middle here. The pros or the advantages of a direct line can be that it's fastest. You can see if you ripped through here, either wheels off the ground or wheels on the ground if you're a mere mortal like me, but even ripping through here in a straight line to get down to our right-hand corner, the exit there, that's going to be very fast, very efficient. The cons of riding a direct line, usually that they're rougher. They can beat us up more, or they can require more of our strength, more energy. In this case too, it's a little bit more committing as well. We've got like a steep janky roll, some roots, an off-camber slab that's still got quite a bit of moss on it, so it could be slippery in wet conditions. Luckily here we've had a few days of sunshine. It's October in Squamish, so conditions can be varied, often really grippy, but then some of that green stuff can get really slippery as well. So that's just something I'd take into consideration with this line. It's maybe not the safest line choice today, but it could also be really fast, really fun, really rewarding. So we might check it out in a second. Now the other main type of line that will exist on most trails is an around line. Sometimes people will call it like a B line or an alternate line. Generally an around line will involve more of a corner because it goes around the feature. Sometimes it will be smoother, can get you around, say, big rolls, big compressions. So that could be a pro of the around line. We can see in this case it is pretty smooth, it's not too steep, not too tight with the trees there, and it gets you down into a good place to maybe reset and just deal with one tricky roll down at the bottom. We might walk down so we can see that. So taking the around line here, obviously this part would be like a nice easy bit to kind of reset, get ready for the next roll down here. And coming around this way, we'd almost divide the trail up into two parts. So that would be the first part. After that reset zone, we've got the second part. And when we get down here, it's like, holy crap, there's lots more options. So often the first thing I'll consider is like big picture, where do I need to go? Where does this line finish? And so we can see there, it's going down to the right. So I can either come across the trail this way, nice little reset here, go straight down the slab and into that nice little banked part of the corner. It's almost like a mini berm. That's going to be awesome. Oftentimes going straight on a rock will allow our brakes to work better rather than trying to turn on the rock. So that's great. We could also sneak down here to the outside and go around the rock feature. Pros of that is we get onto the dirt. The dirt's really grippy today. Other times, maybe if it's raining, the dirt and the roots there could be really slippery. So maybe I'd favor this line. There's always going to be pros and cons, but another thing I can see with this left-hand line is it actually really opens out that corner, making it less steep, less tight, meaning I can probably carry more speed on the exit. Lots of different pros and cons. As we walk back up here, you also see there's a whole maze of other lines coming down through riders right of the trail. My favorite line through here, after lots of session in, is actually a bit of a mix of a direct line and a round line. I like to come in from the top here and actually look for a bit more width on the trail so that I can carry more speed through this initial left-hand turn. And this is where the weighting and unweighting comes in. I come down through here, heavy on my bike here, so a little press down through the pedals. That allows me to be nice and light. And even though the wheels don't really come off the ground, they skip across this route that's potentially slippery, putting me down here to the outside. From here, I'm able to turn in and make a nice straight line down into the inside of that rock roll, inside of the corner. That works really well for me. I find it's fun. It's not too committing. There's grip. And I'm still able to carry a decent amount of speed through this feature, as you see in the GoPro. Now this is what I call a dry weather line, just because usually down here, I cross this route right here. Sure, it can be done in the wet, but it's going to require a little bit more weight and unweight. So when we talk about where we'd like to weight and unweight technical sections like this, really our goal is creating that grip, okay? So weighting at sections where there is grip, we can use that weight to create traction and brake and slow down if we need to, or we can also use it to load our suspension and then ensure our bike's going to be lighter over sections where there's going to be less grip. So this is a great way of opening up direct lines and going over things that we may not be able to go over if we just stay static and still on our bike. Awesome. Let's take a look at me riding a couple of these lines, and then I'll probably get inspired to tell you some more tips and tricks. But these are kind of some of the principles and the pros and cons, the basics of around versus direct lines. Cool. Okay, cool. That was interesting. I didn't like that line as much. The reasons are, on the way in, those couple of steep rolls over the roots, I hit my bash guard there. That made me feel a bit less than stable. And I kind of ended up coming across this off-camber rock that's covered in moss, maybe a little faster than I'd anticipated, and just kind of riding out the rest of the section. Sure, it was fast when I exited. Did it feel like I was 100% in control the whole time? Maybe not. I'm sure some people, like I said, probably launch off that first route, land on the slab down here and come out with way more speed than I did. That's cool if you can do that. That'd be an awesome line. I'm sure some people maybe even roll through that one a little bit faster than I did as well. I'm sure I could if I gave it a couple more attempts. But to be honest with you, this first line I showed you is still my favorite through this section. So carrying on this theme of line selection, we're going to ride down this trail. Adrian's got the follow cam on here. We're going to look for some more around versus direct lines. I'm going to make an effort to be playful here and perhaps look for some new lines that I haven't ridden before. And the key point we really want to get across here is that there's always width in the trail. You just got to get a little bit creative sometimes and maybe think outside of the box. The main line, or the one that's most obvious, isn't always the best line. Sometimes you can find really cool side hits that are really fun. You might be able to open up corners, make them more direct, faster, more efficient. or you may even be able to just weight and unweight and actually avoid some really clunky stuff you'd otherwise smash through. Let's do it. Awesome. We're at a steep technical line here, and this is what I'd call a compound feature. Perhaps the easier bits is like this long section of unbroken rock slab here. It's going to have lots of grip today. There's a slightly flatter section down there near the camera before the next steeper bit. So a couple of bits that I'm going to need to consciously reset back into a taller, more centered body position. I'm going to need to control my speed as well. But really, when I ride a line like this, the mental piece is like I'm committing to from going from the top to the bottom, knowing that there's some zones of safety where I can slow down, but I'm not really going to want to stop it anywhere down this line. So I'm really committing to using my range of movement to stay centered, to reset, and to create that grip I need to both track straight on this line and also to be able to slow down where I can. Now you might notice there's a steep hill on that side, steep hill on that side. The trail kind of wants to suck you down to the right. I'm going to do my best as I come through this line to actually kind of ride up a little bit higher on the left side of this trail, because I feel like that puts me in the best place for the right hand corner for the actual finish of this line before I get to my next like proper rest in zone where I can stop. Okay, so I'm going to try and ride slightly to the left, but I'm also going to take into consideration that there is another line on the right hand side of this trail. So if these rocks do prove to be a bit slippery and I get sucked down there, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. As long as I'm in a good body position, I'm going to be adaptable enough to catch that and to keep moving forward. Okay, so that's my plan. I'm going to think about being strong, being active, and really pumping, pressing down through those compressions so that I can create some good grip to break. Sweet, let me grab my bike and do this up. Okay, get me into that left-hand line. Sweet, it's a fun one. Awesome, we're here, new location. This is the end of a fantastic trail here in 𝗙𝗏𝗵, the end of a trail called 𝗙𝗂𝗏𝗋. It's a great section. We're going to see a rider come down through this right now. Hopefully we're not in the way. Nicely done. Cool, it's a great section to continue our conversation on line choice, because obviously it's quite wide open and there's no one right or wrong way of riding down this. You can see we've got a pretty inside, maybe fast race line down to rider's right there. Got a fantastic, fun up and over line here where we can follow that spine right down. It puts us into a really good place for the exit. Helps us do our corner early. And then we've got kind of the around line here where we'd come up and over the rock. I find for whatever reason, some of the newer riders I'm riding with will often gravitate to this line. It maybe looks a little easier coming in, like we can go around all that janky stuff and then down through the rock. This one also sets us up pretty straight for the exit. So I'm going to ride all three of these lines. Then we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each one. Sweet. By the way, whenever you're sessioning, it really pays to give yourself enough time to get set up, to get enough speed before you get to the actual technical trail feature. So I'm way up here, got a good 5 or 6 bike lengths before the rock there, where Adrian is standing with the camera. All right, bro, to start with, I'm gonna take that far left line, like the ride around. So we can see there, 3 very different lines, but 3 good lines. They're all awesome in different ways, and some different pros and cons, again, depending on where our goalposts are and what our actual intention is in riding this trail. That first around line I did, the one far to rider's left, that was really cool in the sense that it felt stable. I felt in control the whole time. I was able to get the turn done early and then just focus on doing a straight roll down, rather than perhaps turning and doing a roll down at the same time. So again, a great one for the riders that are newer to this particular feature, this particular trail. I guess the cons of that one, it was definitely quite a bit slower than the other 2 lines, and maybe just felt like I was going nutting around and missing a potential fun bit, if this is what fun looks like for you and your current level. That takes us to this middle line. This is the one I gravitate to most. I find with the entry to this trail, I end up popping up onto that rock and then realizing, okay, I'm here now, that one's out of the question. So popping up onto the rock, following it all the way down the nose here, sets us up for a nice, straight, fast exit from this corner. And it's also fun, riding a rock feature, riding down the nose there. It's a good commitment piece if you're newer to this stuff. So it's awesome. It's maybe still not the fastest line down here, but I'd say it's the funnest for sure. And then this last line I rode here, rider's right, sneaking basically around the big rock there. It's definitely the fastest. I'd say that was the race line. And for that reason, it was pretty fun as well. I was able to maintain a really consistent speed from the exit all the way through, bouncing through there, using my range of movement to stay stable. And then really good exit speed here as well. Awesome. So just to summarize there's no right or wrong line choices. It all depends on who you are as a rider, what your intentions are, what your goals are. But there's definitely some principles I'll use to help me decide which lines are going to be the best for me on each particular day. In general, the around lines could be smoother. They could help us maintain more of a feeling of flow, kind of less smashy, but often they'll take a little bit longer as well. They're a little bit less speedy. The direct lines are often the fastest lines, but they're often the ones that require the most commitment, the most power, the most strength to get through as well, not to mention perhaps the most skill and commitment. That's a mental piece there as well. So I really encourage you to get playful, have fun, see how many different ways you can ride the same feature. This is how you'll get better at line selection and kind of learning the nuances of where are we waiting, where are we unweighting, where are we looking as we move down the trail, and how we adjust into the unknown as the bike perhaps starts to move underneath us. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to check the links down below. There's a couple of different ways you can take the next step. The first one being our free Telegram community, where you can jump in there. I give daily try this on your next ride tips, as well as weekly SportSense remote video coaching breakdowns. So it's a great way to get some feedback on your riding, as well as connecting with like-minded, like-skilled riders and having the opportunity to ask me questions directly. If you're ready to take the next step and actually work with me both in person and online, you can also check out our full circle coaching program, or perhaps you're ready for the trip of a lifetime. You can join one of our global coaching expeditions. Link for that one is down in the description as well. These are both designed to give you everything you need to really build unshakable levels of confidence, control, consistency, and community. And they're engineered in a way that progression becomes an inevitable part of the process. With that progression, with that mileage comes the confidence. So it goes from being this elusive thing we're chasing more of into just an inevitable part of the process that we'll get little chunks of, and we can really celebrate at each step along the way. So I hope to see you either in the Telegram space or out here on the trails really soon. Thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next video.